Hello, and welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. I'm your host, Blair, also known as Bubbs, alongside DiMari again. It is NFL Week 9, and we're going to be previewing all the matchups. We did this last week and excited to do it again this week. DiMari, thanks for coming on. How's it going, man?
I'm good, I'm excited. We got some good football going on. We got the Dolphins and Chiefs right now, so it's gonna be a good
Yep.
week of football.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. A lot of great games, a lot of big games within both conferences. Obviously, your Cowboys against the Eagles. We've got Seahawks, Rams. We got Bills, Bengals, which is big for the AFC playoff picture. And then tomorrow night, Jets, Chargers, which is another big one for the AFC playoff picture as well. So we'll break it all down. To start, what is kind of your just general overall thoughts on some of the biggest games today, and what are you overall expecting today on week 9, which is crazy. It's already week 9. Season's flying by.
Season's definitely flying by, but I feel like a lot of games today have a lot of playoff indications.
Yep.
Looking at the AFC right now, a lot of these teams are 6-2, so everyone's basically tied for first place. Miami and Kansas City is going on right now, so that's going to kind of change after this game. But especially in the AFC, we got a lot of teams looking for that first seed.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. And even just, the big, AFC picture, NFC picture, divisions on the line, wild cards on the line, a lot at stake. Just from a Jet fan perspective, I mean, I know going into this game, if we get the win tomorrow night against the Chargers, we have a 65% chance of making the postseason. We lose tomorrow night, our chances drop to 35% because of the tiebreaker we'd have with the Chargers. So massive implications at home there. But we'll start with a little NFC AFC matchup. It is the Seahawks and the Ravens. Seahawks traveling to Baltimore in this one. Two teams that are looking to continue their winning ways. Seattle 5-2, Baltimore 6-2. Just as some general thoughts, we'll start with the visiting Seattle Seahawks. What are your thoughts on them going into this game? As Geno Smith and his Seahawks team have been able to get it done, 5-2. They've won 2 straight, fresh off of back-to-back wins at home. What are your thoughts on Seattle coming into this game as the road underdogs?
I like what I'm seeing out of Seattle, especially these last few weeks, looking at how they kind of started off and how the 49ers kind of started off. I don't think anyone would have thought that they would be sitting at first place right now in their division. So I feel like they're starting to figure it out. They're still, kind of getting Geno to figure out more of how to protect the ball, and not try to be a hero and do too much. So I think as long as they kind of maintain letting Geno, let the game come to him, they're going to be okay today. I can't say they're going to go into Baltimore and win. It's a hard place to play, but I feel like they put up a fight today.
Yeah, I tend to agree too. And you made a great point about, that division, the NFC West, which early in the season, or not even early, but 3 weeks ago, we were talking about San Francisco 5-0, Brock Purdy, they're looking great. Debo then goes down, and they've now lost 3 straight. It feels like their bye week has come at a perfect time, and we'll see what happens with San Francisco. I guess we can also kind of expand into them a little bit. Do you feel San Francisco is maybe not as good as many of us thought? Is the Brock Purdy? I know we talked a little bit about it last week about the Brock Purdy magic maybe dying down a little bit. And then you went into that Bengals game. We were all saying, okay, this is an opportunity for him to go out there, beat a good Bengals team that's starting to play much better, which we'll get to them here a little later. But do you feel the Niners magic is kind of dying down and another opportunity for Seattle to gain even more room in that NFC West?
It's hard to say it and not sound like mad Cowboys fans, still from how they embarrassed us on TV. But, like we talked last week, I still don't believe in San Francisco, and I still don't think they're good. Every time me and my dad talk about San Francisco, easier said than done, but it's always along the lines if you take one of those superstars out the game, Brock Purdy is not going to be that good. He's just in a very fortunate system. So I'm not saying he isn't good at all. I'm just saying he has so much around him and so much to, use and to work from that. He doesn't have to drop back, kind of be a hero and play great ball. It's kind of like, let me just get the ball to my playmakers as much as I can, which I know that's all of football, so it might sound crazy. But basically what I'm trying to say is Brock Purdy isn't that type to win the games by his own hand. He has to rely on others to win for him. Along with the defense, he has to have that defense playing outstanding for them to win a lot of these games. And we see over these last few weeks, the defense is kind of, falling down the ladder. They haven't been looking too well starting with the Cleveland game. So, again, I think absolutely if Seattle can win today and not look forward to San Francisco, because they do play twice in the next few weeks, So
Yeah.
if Seattle can kind of focus on today, not worry about San Fran moving forward, they definitely can start to pull away in that division.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned that defense for San Francisco really struggled last week. Burrow had the 3 touchdowns. You could probably say it was probably his best game of the year. And again, that was against a Bengals team on the rise. So not a good look there for San Francisco. And yeah, they got a couple big games coming up against Seattle on the road and obviously home the split division matchups, which will be big there. So moving on from, the Niners and the Seahawks and what this game means for Seattle, when you look at Baltimore's perspective, they're the home team. They're 6.5-point favorites, and they're cruising. And, there was a lot of thoughts and a lot of media around this team, criticism around the team when they fell to 3-2 after that loss to Pittsburgh. And then they had, the London road trip game against, Tennessee. They ended up playing Detroit and Arizona. They won all those games, and they dominated Detroit, which I think was a real just big statement win against a good, well-coached Lions team. So it seems as if, and I guess you can probably agree with this too, or give your thoughts on this as well. Like it seems after that Steelers games, a switch has been flicked for this, or for this Ravens team where they were 3-2, not looking great, and all of a sudden they've turned it around. They've won 3 straight, and they've been all 3 really just dominant, good victories over a couple, good teams. Obviously, Cardinals aren't good, but the Lions are a very good team that they dominated. What have been your thoughts on Baltimore, their recent, stretch of hot, good football prior to, since that Steelers loss?
I think they're picking it up at the right time, and right now is definitely where they kind of need to stay hot because you look inside
Yeah.
that division, and we talked kind of last week about Pittsburgh and how they haven't looked too well. They're
Yep.
still sitting at a playoff spot right now if the season was to end today. So you're looking
Mhm.
at Cincinnati, who they are eventually, as we see, they start to get rolling, and they're going to continue to roll each week. And before we know it, they might be first place in the division. So with Baltimore, I'm sorry, Cleveland as well. Cleveland is another team that
Yep.
could be, surprise and come on later on because they've had their ups and downs throughout the weeks. But
Yep.
that division that they're playing in is very tough. So
Yeah.
Baltimore, I feel like they kind of know, back in the mind, like we kind of have to win every week because
Yep.
Joe Burrow and Cincinnati, they're not going to look like how they're looking for too long. So let's at least try to keep it hot, keep up the pace, and hopefully don't slip up down the road. But if we do, we still have some space to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And they've got a couple big division matchups coming up after this one, where all 3 of them are at home. They'll face Cleveland and Cincinnati in back-to-back weeks. But I feel like, again, that's why this game's so important for them, because you get this win, you get the 7-2, you give yourself a little bit of breathing room for those next 2 divisional matchups against Cleveland and Cincinnati, where even if you somehow, or even if you split or lose those 2, you're still in the conversation rather than losing this week, falling to 6-3, and kind of taking a step back from the 3-game winning streak that they've really built on. So this is going to be a very good game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm expecting a good high-scoring game. What is your prediction and score prediction, and who do you think comes out on top in this one in Baltimore? I think this is one of the premier games, coming up this weekend.
I think Baltimore is going to pull it out, home field
Yeah.
advantage. I'm not too sure about the high score. I'm just looking at how well their defense has played.
Yeah.
And Seattle's defenses, they're kind of picking it up too. They're sneaky good. They might not be up there statistically, but looking at them over the last few weeks or a few games, their defense is good. Their defense picks it up and brings it when they need to. I feel like Baltimore will pull this one out. They kind of know the importance, like we talking about the playoff standings right now. Everyone tied at 6-2 in the division
Yeah.
winners. So give me Baltimore today to come out with a win. Very low scoring though.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I'm gonna take Baltimore with the win. I do think it's gonna be close. I don't think Baltimore's gonna cover the 6.5. I think Seattle's gonna keep this close. Um, if this was, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, if this was in Seattle, I would give Seattle a little bit more chance. But across the country trip,
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore's, played well, especially recently at home. Obviously, their last, home game was that 38-6 victory over the Lions. I'm going to take Baltimore. I don't think they'll cover the 6.5. I think I'll take Seattle plus 6.5, but I'll take Baltimore to win this game. So we're on the same page there. Moving on to your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, as they've got a massive in-division matchup against Philly in Philadelphia today. I'll just let you start with this one. Take it away. What are your thoughts and going into this game as a Cowboys fan, fresh off of a really dominant, solid victory last week against the Rams at home?
Well, I'm gonna start off with this here. I got my rally towel.
Nice.
I'm ready to go for the Cowboys game, it's not going to be an easy win. It's never an easy game playing against Philly. And my main concern personally is something has to give. You know, our secondary has not given up a 100-yard receiver all year. But now you look on Philly's end, and A.J. Brown is unguardable. Every game, well, the last 6 weeks, definitely unguardable. So something's going to have to give on that aspect. And same when it comes to both offenses versus defenses. You know, Philly's defense hasn't looked that well, but they're going to have a little bit more motivation playing against Dallas, and then you're playing in Philly. And for Philly's offense, how well is Dallas going to look? Are they going to look how they kind of did against the Cardinals, or are they going to look how they look, you know, against the Giants, against the Jets, even last week against not last week, but the Chargers game? You know, what Cowboys team are you going to get? That is my biggest concerns coming into tonight.
Yeah, it seems like there's been a little bit of that inconsistency there with the Cowboys that we've seen of a lot of on what type of team you're going to get. I mean, I'll tell you what, you get the team that you got last week, you feel really good about going, you know, you feel really, really good about this game. Just wanted to get back into the red zone stuff for a second, because we talked about this last week. What were your thoughts last game, Cowboys, how they were in the red zone? I know they went 2 for 4. Again, 43 points. There's not many negatives to take away, but do you feel a little bit more confident in the red zone after, you know, last week? What were your thoughts on their performance there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to start off as a team in a general. That is the best they've looked all year on all aspects of the game. Special teams, defense, the offense looked good, especially in the red zone. I'm glad Mike McCarthy kind of remembered that CeeDee Lamb does play on the team and got him involved. Big game, 12 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then that's what we're going to need moving forward. You know, like I said, that Philly defense really struggles. So if Dallas can continue to get CeeDee Lamb more involved, and Brandon Cooks, who had a great game last week, kind of get him going. We're still waiting on Michael Gallup to appear. Once they can figure that out and the defense can play even just half as good as half they played these last few weeks, we're going to be good today.
Yeah, and I think another big thing, too, is containing Jalen Hurts' legs is another big factor in this one for Philly. What do you feel Dallas needs to do to contain Hurts' legs, which is obviously so dangerous when he's able to get out of the pocket and run?
That's a tough one, and I'm glad Dan Quinn has to make that decision today and not me.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, again, something has to give with playing against Philly. You know, they have the best offensive line in all football.
Yep.
So do you want to let A.J. Brown beat you and, you know, let Hurts use his legs and kind of try to sit back in like a zone to not get beat, you know, deep ball, deep crossers? Or do you want to bring like Marquise Bell into the box and have him spy Jalen Hurts? But, you know, if watching a lot of Marquise Bell, for those who don't know, came out of FAMU undrafted, and he has been like amazing this season for us. You know, he's the safety. We moved him to linebacker, and he's been kind of just an X factor for us. So you can play him in the box like a linebacker. He can guard the tight end. He can play in the slot. So for Dan Quinn, it's like, what do you want to do with Marquise Bell? Do you let him spy? Do you put him on Dallas Goedert? Do you kind of try to take DeAndre Swift out of the game and sit him in the box? So it's really no way to really answer that question. I guess that's going to be a come out the first few drives and kind of just adjust to it.
Yeah, kind of a feeling out process early on, seeing how Philly looks. And then, again, I mean, that's what makes them so dangerous, is then you have A.J. Brown, who probably outside of Tyreek Hill has been right up there in the NFL with one of the top receivers in football in terms of, you know, especially when you look at the yards, which will be a good challenge, too, for your guys' secondary. This is going to be an awesome game. I think this is probably, this and the Bills-Bengals game, which we'll get to here in a second, probably the 2 best games, I would say, Week 9, especially with the implications in both playoffs. This one specifically, given that it's an in-division matchup in the NFCs, 2 teams fighting. Any other closing thoughts on this one for, you know, just from a Cowboys fan perspective? And then, you know, any other things that you're looking out for, too, on what Dallas needs to do to ultimately come away with a win here, as we were mentioning a little bit too more on the defensive side of the football?
Just don't disappoint me today. I know a lot of Eagles fans. I work with a lot of Eagles fans. I just need you to come out and just play ball. Just don't get embarrassed. That's it.
Yep, and I think something else to keep an eye on is the tush push. Will Philly run the tush push? I was a Jet fan. I was interested to see how we would look against them, but we actually played our defense played really well that they never actually ran the tush push. Although last week, I know the tush push didn't work against Washington on the one play. So we'll see. What are kind of do you have any way, do you think Dallas can potentially stop it if they do face up against the tush push in this one?
Just don't let them get to
No,
third
yeah,
and fourth and short.
one,
That's
yeah,
the only way
exactly.
I think to stop it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way, exactly. Keeping them those third and medium, third and long situations as opposed to anywhere between third and 1, fourth and inches, third and inches, whatever it might be, because it's something that works a lot. I mean, we'll see if it continues. I guess that's, again, we'll get to our prediction here in a second. Do you feel the tush push should be like allowed, or do you think it's, I mean, just from my perspective, I mean, I have no problem with it, but I mean, I could see it being annoying if a team runs it on you 3-4 times a game and they're just converting first downs all the time. What are your thoughts? Do you think it should be allowed? Shouldn't it be allowed? Like, what are your overall views on this controversial tush push play?
They can run it every week besides the 2 weeks they play us, and I'm
Yeah,
fine. I
yeah,
mean, I know a
that's the way
lot.
I look at it too.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but it is football, and if you don't want them to do it, again, like you just said, keep them to that third and medium, that third and 4 or longer, whatever the case is. Just simply stop the offense. I mean, there's no way to stop it. It's the most unstoppable play in football. But you look around the league, other teams trying to do it, and other teams can't do it. So you just got to give credit where credit is due. They just run it perfectly.
Yeah, it's something that is just, if it happens against you, it's annoying. If it doesn't, you don't really kind of pay no mind to it. So we'll see what happens there today. So prediction time. Dallas comes into this one as the 3-point road dogs. So Philly's the home favorites. A huge game for Dallas. I feel like this is kind of a redemption game for them where you had that bad taste. Their other massive matchup was that San Francisco game. Poor performance. You have another opportunity here to go up against another really good team on the road and get an in-division W. What's your score prediction in this one? Cowboys, Philly.
I'm 100% taking Dallas.
Dallas.
Should have known that answer coming.
Yeah.
I honestly think they beat Philly maybe by a touchdown or more. I just have this feeling that they're going to come out today with a statement. San Francisco, like you just said, embarrassed them. So this is kind of just like San Francisco's falling off. We're about to come show Philly and everybody else the NFC should run through Dallas this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping the Dallas Cowboys win because I don't like the Eagles at all. I mean, I just think not a Sirianni guy, not a huge fan of the Eagles just in general. I thought they were really thought their fan base is super annoying. I do think Philly will win this game, but I am rooting for the Cowboys because I just can't stand the Eagles. I think their fan base is obnoxious, and I know just from last year's the Super Bowl and all that stuff. So I'm going to take Philly, but I'm rooting hard for the Cowboys because I do not want to see. And it also just changes things up too. Eagles keep winning the division. It'd be nice to see, Cowboys come out on top in this one. And I like Dak. I like CeeDee Lamb. I like a lot of their pieces. So I'm going to take the Eagles, but I'm rooting for the Cowboys and hoping that I'm wrong. I'm not one to root for all my picks. I'm going to hope this one is a pick that I don't get right. So moving on here to the next matchup is the Bills-Bengals. What are your thoughts going into this game? It's another big game. I think probably Cowboys, Eagles, Bills, Bengals, as we talked about, probably the two biggest games of the weekend, I think, when it comes to playoffs and postseason implications. What are your thoughts going into this game, Bills, Bengals, for both these teams?
Would it be crazy to say this game might not be like a future playoff matchup? Just because I don't believe in Buffalo.
It's certainly possible. I mean, you make a great point. I don't think the Bills are that good either. I don't. I mean, and maybe this is just me trying to talk myself into the Jets being in the division race come December, but I don't think the Bills are that good either. I think they're overrated. I think that their window probably closed about a year or two ago. They're overrated. Doesn't mean that they're not a good team, but they're not what I think a lot of people talk them up to be. I mean, that New England loss was ugly. They were a pass interference penalty away from losing to the Giants at home. Even the Thursday night game against the Bucks, they played well, but it wasn't like they blew them out. I mean, the Bucks were in the game on the road. So I agree. I don't think the Bills are that good. What are your thoughts on Buffalo? Where do you see them ranking amongst the AFC in terms of high end teams, kind of middle tier and then bottom of the pack? Where do you see them falling in there?
I think they're probably in that 5 to 6 range as far as seeding. I've never been big on Buffalo. I'm sorry, I might catch some slander for this. I feel like Josh Allen's a little overrated. I feel like the Bills in general are a little overrated. How I kind of like describe them is they're the Cowboys of the AFC, or maybe even worse. They have the better quarterback, as some say. And every year, they're predicted to win the Super Bowl, and we're getting to 13, 14, however
Yeah.
many amount of wins. But you've only been past the second round one time.
Yep.
You even changed playoff rules for them because everyone felt bad. Oh, they gave up 13 seconds and to the Chiefs, and you changed the rules, and they still don't make it past the second round moving forward. So I just don't believe in Buffalo, and I've never believed in Buffalo, and especially this season now. If I'm looking at it from the outside in, they got Miami the first time. I don't see that happening again. I think Baltimore would beat Buffalo if they match up against them. You guys will probably beat Buffalo again when you match up against them, just because Buffalo, as we can see, they play a lot of these teams that their identity is coming on the defense side of the ball. Yep. They really don't do too much. They don't pop out at me. They don't really make me nervous, basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree too. I actually think, I guess I'll spoil my pick here. I like Cincy a lot in this game. I think they're just a hotter team. Buffalo always seems like they start out fast and they start to cool down, and it seems to that point where they're kind of cooling down right now. And you were spot on. Their schedule does not get any easier. They have Denver next week on Monday night, which I'll take probably the Bills in that one. Denver, even with them beating the Chiefs, they're still a 3-5 team. They're not going anywhere. But after that, they do have the Jets, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. So they've got 4 games in a row, including 2 on the road in Philly and Kansas City against 4 teams that could easily be in the postseason. So their schedule is not getting easier. I think I don't know. It's weird with Buffalo because they'll have games where they go out there, they put up 35. Josh Allen's dominating, getting the ball to Diggs, and there's other games where they seem to start slow. They start slow a lot in these games, and it's tough for them to come back. And eventually that's going to come back to bite you. You could start slow against bad teams and find ways to win, but you start slow against Philly, you start slow against, Dallas, obviously, or, even the Chiefs, you're not going to come back in those games, especially when they're on the road. So that makes it tough. Would you tend to agree kind of with that assessment?
Absolutely. And for me, again, I'm going to highlight Josh Allen. That's not talked about, but a lot of that starting slow, it either comes from him turning the ball over, or that them slow starts to him pressing and turning the ball over. So, it's not talked about, other media, but I'm going to call it out. And that is their biggest problem. And as you just said, that's why their championship window has closed, because he's turning the ball over too much. But we're not going to put all the blame on him either. The defense just went from a top 3 defense a few years ago to now they're shaky. You never know what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
So I guess that's also going to spoil my pick. I'm taking Cincy because they're hot right now. Yeah. And just looking at those 2 corners for Buffalo, who's going to guard Jamar Chase? T. Higgins is starting to figure it out. I'm taking Cincy today.
Yeah, and for the Bills, their defense started really strong, but again, they dealt with some of those injuries. And Von Miller, I would say, probably hasn't been what many fans expected him to be, not nearly the same player he once was. And they got a couple pieces in the secondary. They're definitely young, but Milano going down certainly hurts. So it's just a tough spot for them on the road, Sunday night. I look at this as you got a very hot team in Cincinnati that's finding themselves. They're on a groove. They won 3 of their last 4. They're on a 3-game win streak. They just got done beating San Francisco on the road, which even though San Francisco might be on the way down, winning in NFL is hard, especially on the road. And a defense like that. They're just a hot team. They're at home. Do you feel Cincinnati's going to keep this going? Do you feel this is the start of a stretch run where these 3 wins might turn into something even bigger, where they potentially even surpass Baltimore maybe and come out of the AFC North on top? What do you see Cincinnati doing the rest of the season, especially if they win tonight?
It's going to be hard to say that they're going to pass Baltimore, just because they're still sitting in 4th right now in the division. But they're getting hot at the right time. You can tell from now the last few weeks with Joe Burrow compared to the first few beginning of the season. He's fully healthy now, and Jamar Chase speaking up kind of sparked something in that offense that just put Cincy on like a whole nother level. Like you said, San Francisco right now, looking at the last few weeks, it's not really one of those wins where it's like, oh well, we went in and we beat San Francisco. It's kind of just like, we beat San Francisco, but
Yeah.
to still go on the West Coast and to put up
Yep.
30 plus points on that defense,
Yep.
that's huge. So I think that is more momentum going forward.
Yeah, and on a defense that includes Fred Warner and, Bosa, it is a huge, still a very solid win to go on the road and take down, obviously, San Francisco, as you mentioned. So I'll also agree. I'll take Cincy. And after this, they have Houston next week, which is definitely winnable for them. And in those two division games come up, it's Baltimore, it's Pittsburgh, which those will be exciting. They also hit Pittsburgh later on. The AFC North is going to be awesome because there is still a lot of games within that division that has got to be played between each other. They still got to play the Browns one more time, the Steelers twice. They've still got to play the Ravens again. So there is a lot of excitement, a lot that still can happen in that AFC North. What's your score prediction for tonight? I know you're taking the Bengals, but by how much and what's your prediction or score prediction? Yeah.
I actually feel like this one might be a bit of high scoring. Yeah. I'm going to say 38-27 Cincy.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'll take Cincy. I'll take Cincy by a touchdown, 31-24. I'll obviously have them covering the 2.5. I think it's going to be a big game for Burrow. I just think, the Bills are hit a little bit of a rut right now offensively. I think for Cincy, they're hot. It's a hot team versus a cold team at home. I just like Cincy a lot in this game, so I'll also be with you there and take the Bengals. So moving on to our final matchup to preview here. It's the New York Jets and the Chargers on Monday night, tomorrow night at MetLife Stadium. Chargers enter this one as the road favorites, which I'm actually happy about because anytime the Jets are favored, they don't play well. They barely got, the job done last week against the Giants. I guess we'll start there. What were your thoughts on that Giant game? Like, where would you rank that on the most ugliest games you've seen? Because that game was brutal. A W is a W, but that was ugly. What are your thoughts on, the Jets coming into this one after a win over the Giants that was set offense back like 50 years?
I feel on the bright side for the Jets. You cannot play any worse today than you played last week.
Yep, that's
like
true.
No possible
Very
way.
True. Yeah.
Last week was something. No offense, but if you want to take a nap during the game, that was the game to take a nap during. It was rough to watch on both sides.
Yep. Yeah, it was brutal. I mean, defensively we were great again, but for a while there, I mean, the Giants didn't have Tommy DeVito. They didn't have a quarterback that was competent of throwing a pass past the line of scrimmage for a while there. I don't know. I guess just from an outside fan perspective, I hear your thoughts on this as well. I have a weird feeling that maybe this is just the Jet fan inside of me trying to provide some optimism. Because I could see this game going one of two ways. I could either see the New York Jets going out there and playing really well and just, doing what they did against Kansas City, rolling Zach out of the pocket, letting him throw the ball deep, playing to his strengths. And I could also see the flip side of it where the Jets come out, big game, a lot of playoff implications on the line and just laying flat because they've done that before. What are your thoughts, like, from an outside perspective? Like, how do you expect to see the Jets come out tomorrow? I think part of me says that they're going to let it rip and throw the ball deep with Zach because they have to realize that they're not going to be able to win this game with 10 points against the Chargers, who we'll get to in a second. Like, what do you expect to see from the Jets, like, offensively tomorrow? Because we know what they're going to do defensively. One of the best defensive football. They're going to be able to bring pressure with just 4. We know what they can do. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you expect? Do you think the Jets might open it up a little bit with Zach tomorrow, realizing, hey, this is a Chargers offense that's got Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. They're going to put up points. We got to try and match that.
Well, funny thing, there's this guy that I know, he shops at the store that I work at, who is a Jets fan. And from the last few weeks compared to when Rodgers went down and Zach Wilson first got in, he kind of switched from get Zach Wilson off my team, ship him out of New York immediately to now let the kid play, let him air it out, let him throw the ball. And that's what I would personally do. I would take the leash off of Zach Wilson. I know after the Cowboys game, we talked about it. It was kind of like, let's protect them, run the ball and eventually open some things up downfield. But we're looking at a Chargers team that is one of the worst secondaries in all of football.
Totally agree.
You have to let him throw the ball. You got to let him just be free Because if he has in the back of his mind, if I'm only throwing the ball 16 times and I'm making mistakes, that's going to kind of knock his confidence down.
Yep.
I think you got to just trust him, especially against this secondary. Like you said, roll him out, take some shots with Garrett Wilson. Use Alan Lazard's big body. Just give him some confidence moving forward. And I think as that confidence starts to grow, especially this game, we'll see a different Zach Wilson than what we've seen.
Yeah, I totally agree. You go back to that Chiefs game where they let him rip it, or let it rip. That's the word I like to use. Just let him throw the ball deep, take chances. He threw for 245 yards and actually completely outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game. He was great. Like, it was the best game of his career by far. And you mentioned the secondary, and that's something I wanted to get to. The Chargers secondary is not good. Now, they've got some piece of pass rush. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they can both get to the quarterback. And luckily, the Jets up front, they got a little bit healthier with Joe Tippmann and Laika Tomlinson coming back, but Billy Turner at guard still concerns me. Max Mitchell at tackle concerns me a little bit still. So there still are some question marks up front. You hope they can handle the pressure, though. But yeah, that defense, that secondary, currently allowing 297.4 pass yards per game, which is by far the worst in football. This is a game where Chargers are actually good against the run. This is, as much as I would love to see Breece Hall, and with his skill, he can break out a big run at any time. This is not a game where you're going to be able to ground and pound and win. This is a game where you're going to have to win.
No.
Hopefully with Zach's arms and also his legs, and red zone and third down have got to be better. The third down conversion, I don't know why it's so hard to just convert a third down and 2, but it is for the Jets, and it's frustrating as a fan. So just flipping over to the Chargers side really quickly, like, what do you feel Herbert needs to do against this Jets defense that is a big reason why we are still in the mix of things in the strong AFC?
I'm going to say get the ball out quick.
Yep.
That's probably the best bet. With that, the Jets secondary, the pass rush, basically all 11 on defense. There's really no weakness with that defense. So for Herbert, especially with that broken middle finger, it's going to be, let me get the ball out quick. Let me not take a bunch of hits, because the Jets are going to bring it 100%. They're going to bring it.
Yep. Yeah, they're a team that it's just, Bryce Huff's been so good. Jermaine Johnson, so many guys, so many pieces. I'm really looking forward to seeing, some maybe Sauce Gardner, Keenan Allen matchups, although they don't let Sauce travel. So we'll see how much of that matchup we actually get tomorrow, but I would like to see that pressure on Herbert. Another note to throw out there is, as you mentioned, getting, for this defense to get after getting pressure and for Herbert to get the ball out quick. That is key for him, because the Chargers this year, when Herbert gets sacked at least 3 or more times, they're 0-3. So basically, when Herbert faces pressure, the Chargers lose games. So get pressure on Herbert, and that's a good recipe for the W. What's your prediction for this one?
I hate to say it, but I'm going to take the Chargers on this one. I just feel, a little bit more offense from the Chargers in. I think it's going to be a tough game, especially for them with the Jets defense, but they just got more weapons kind of to rely on. It's just, they're going to have to figure out something, because they're not going to run the ball that well against that Jets defense. So I don't think Austin Eckler has a big game. I kind of need him to, got him in fantasy. So please. But again, that Jets team, they're going to bring pressure. They are very sticky in the secondary. So I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think they're going to give Herbert a lot of trouble, but I think they're going to sneak out the win.
Yeah, I'll again, the Jet fan inside me. I'll take the win here, but I totally see where you're coming from with the Chargers. And, can the Jets, if the Chargers go out there and put up 23 points, can the Jets go out there and score 24, 26? Like, do they have that in them? I think this is going to be a game for the Jets, and this is why I will take them to win, because I feel like that Nathaniel Hackett, this coaching staff's going to realize we're not going to be able to win this game with 10 points. And I hope that wakes this coaching staff up a little bit and says, you know what, let Zach go out there and hopefully play like he did against Kansas City. If he does that, I feel good about our chances. So I'll take the Jets, but look, if Zach is what he was last week and they're throwing short, he's missing the short passes, there's a lot of penalties. Discipline's huge for the defense. You can't have those those post-snap penalties where, unsportsmanlike or whatever. Even the neutral zone infraction on Michael Clemens last week was brutal. At this point, I'm just ranting, but they've got to be disciplined, let it rip with Zach, take some chances at home, got the home crowd, let it loose. So I'll take the Jets, but it'll definitely be not going to be easy at all. This is one of our more difficult tasks that we've had this season against another really good quarterback. And we'll see if we can stop a very good quarterback, which we've done well this year. So to close things out, any other closing thoughts? Any other, maybe quick game here to look at this weekend as we get set for week 9, although right now it's obviously happening with the Chiefs Dolphins, but any other closing thoughts before we end it?
Yes, I want to touch back on the Jets and the Chargers. What I want to see from the Jets is to just get Dalvin Cook the ball. A team like the Chargers that, like you said, when you highlighted Bosa and Khalil Mack, teams that's going to pressure, those type of teams are great to run screens against and a lot of quick game. And as we used to see with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota, him in open field with some linemen down the field, that's a scary sight. That's not somebody you really want to hop in front of, or that's somebody you're probably not going to run down. You know what I mean? So I want to see him get more involved. I know he's kind of unhappy with his role right now, but I feel like as the season goes on, they kind of need to go more of that 1-2 punch with Hall and Cook. They even throwing a little Williams here. You know what I mean? Try to get all your backs featured, get them started. And that's going to be a key part of going to beat this Chargers team.
Yeah, something else I would like to see too with the Jets running back room potentially is activate Izzy Abanaconda, who's a rookie we got from Pitt. Just a good, explosive young running back. See what you got, right? Again, it's an offense that's struggling. It can't hurt to throw him out there, give him an opportunity. Like you were saying, a little bit more of that, 1-2 punch to complement off of Brees. And also, too, receiving core wise, like getting others involved. Xavier Gipson, Jason Brownlee, 2 undrafted free agents that we have that the Jets have spoke very highly of. The reason they traded McCole Harmon was because of the emergence of Xavier Gipson. So I want to see Xavier Gipson. We can't talk all about Xavier Gipson and not play him. So I would like to see him more out there as well. But you make a great point. Spreading the wealth a little bit more, getting some other guys involved, both backfield and even the receiving core as well, which I think we need to see more of. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's great. Well, hopefully Lazard plays tomorrow. He's questionable right now. But even, some of these other pieces that hopefully can play a role. So that'll close things out. Looking forward to another full weekend of football. DiMari, tell everybody where they can find you and all your great work.
Find me on Twitter /X LWOS DCooley6.
Nice. Sounds good. Thanks for hopping on. This was a lot of fun. Scheduling fits right. We'll do it again next week. Definitely enjoying these. Enjoy the full Sunday of football. And as always, hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.